All right. Well, here we are. This is the first, not first, we did one in person a few months ago, but this is kind of the inaugural podcast for the Sports Hour with Miller and Watson. I mean,
Yes,
this is
yes,
cool, right? We're
yes,
here.
yes.
We've, all week been trying to commit to a date, and I've been flaking because after Sundays, we were going to meet on a Monday morning. And I texted and I said, I left Stamford, where NBC's sports headquarters is, at 2 o'clock in the morning after a full day of Sunday Night Football. And I said, the thought of turning around and going back into Stamford on Monday makes me want to cry. I couldn't do it. And so I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that we started. Unfortunately, we kind of have to start the show today on a little bit of a sad note.
Mm.
Some stuff happened up in Maine last night, which is pretty close to, of course, where we are. I'm up in Connecticut. It's a state over. It's where a lot of our family and friends go for vacation. It's a lovely place with absolutely lovely, amazing people. And last night they had a horrific shooting at a bowling alley, and we just want to send our thoughts and prayers and condolences to the victims, their families, and everybody up there in all of Maine, which is major parts are still on lockdown. I know a lot of schools were closed today. Just sending our thoughts and prayers, and hoping that they can are able to get through this tough time. And unfortunately, there's not a lot that we can do down here in Connecticut for them, besides thoughts and prayers, and have a space for them when they're ready to talk.
Yeah, having never been to that
Um,
state, um, yeah, having never been to that state, it's a shame. Just another day in America, unfortunately, where this is the only country where this happens at. We're gonna try not to get too political with it, but it's unfortunate. I'm back home in Philly, so it's unfortunate that that had to happen. And prayers and condolences and thoughts with our brothers and sisters of the Northeast and Maine, and anybody else who's been affected, because we know this touches all over the country and
all
other
over,
countries
yeah.
too. So we definitely want to pray and hope that you guys will come through this horrific event that happened last night. But we hope to entertain you a little bit with some sports thoughts. And we're gonna do
Yeah,
what
take
we
your mind
do.
off some stuff. And yeah, we're gonna kind of riff. We're gonna go back and forth. We're gonna hit kind of all aspects of sports. We're gonna do some NFL. We're gonna do some NBA. We're gonna do. I kind of begged to put some college basketball in there, so we'll do a little college basketball there at the end, and kind of just see where it goes. So, anybody out there listening, if you have questions, you have stuff you want us to cover, let us know. Hit us up. We both of our socials are linked in the live, and just let us know, because again, this is new for us too. So we're playing it episode by episode, and we'll play around with it, have some fun, and take some suggestions. And the main part is just have some fun, talk some sports, and it's nothing too serious.
Yeah, nothing too serious.
Alrighty.
All fun,
Nothing
all
too serious.
nothing too.
Yeah. So I know you were up here in Stamford for a few days, and you kind of got to see the craziness of a Monday post Sundays, which are a little crazy here. For those of you that don't really know what a Sunday looks like in Stamford, at least those of us that work on Sunday Night Football, we get there at noon. And for those of us that work on Football Night in America, which is our pregame and halftime and postgame show, we sit in this giant room. We call it the war room. It has 10, 15 TVs on the wall. We watch every single game. It's craziness, all the talent sitting in the front. So we have all these pro athletes that are sitting there, and they notice stuff that I'll never notice. I mean, Chris Sims sits right in front of me, and the way that he breaks down the quarterback play is incredible. It's really cool to be able to listen. Hopefully, I'll able to give you guys some of the stuff that he says. But it's cool. So we really do get to watch all the games. We're there all day. Um, then we do our show, come back. We get a nice catered lunch by NBC, or dinner by NBC. If you ever get the chance, I don't know why you would, to have a catered meal by NBC. They do a good job. Their food is good. They had steak, like sliced steak. They were slicing steak in front of us, which was awesome. I digress though. After the show, we actually tape a podcast close to midnight, kind of get everything out, and then, like I said, I'd sit there and I edit some stuff, and I leave at 2 a.m. So, and then everybody turns around in the morning, comes in, and it's craziness trying to recap all the games. So
As it
we are going to
always.
recap a few of them. Yeah, and then you start all over again. It's like you get Monday, and then Tuesday's kind of like a break, and then Wednesday it's like full blown into what's happening this weekend, what's a Sunday night game, what's the important stuff to talk about. So we're gonna hit on some of the stuff that happened last week, and then kind of hit on week 8. There's not a lot of great games for week 8, to be honest with you. There was some
There really
really,
isn't.
really good games in week 7. No, there's not. So we'll kind of flip to the NBA because they had opening night, and that was exciting. And yeah, so let's just start. We're gonna start with the Dolphins and the Eagles. Just kind of a reaction. I know I'm gonna let you get your feels out first as our resident Philly boy, because I know you must be beaming with pride because Philly has. I know. I'm sorry about last night. It wasn't probably the great. 2 nights ago, I guess, wasn't probably the greatest and to be in Philly, but at least you have the Eagles right now. So how are you feeling about this game?
Man, I'm feeling good. Unfortunately, my Phillies couldn't go all the way, but that's to be expected. Like, they haven't made me happy since 2008, and the next time they went to the World Series, they then lost to the Yankees, and that was the last time the Yankees won anything. And that Philly New York thing is real with the sports team. So I can't brag too much, but we are. A lot of people got real excited over the Philadelphia baseball team, and so maybe next year, maybe.
But transfer that excitement back over to the Eagles.
Maybe
the Flyers. I don't know how they're looking so far.
They're trash. We don't talk about.
We
don't acknowledge the Flyers.
That's fair. Hey, I'm a Caps fan, and this season has either been like we win 10-0, we lose 10-0. It's very hot and cold, so I feel that. So give me your thoughts on the Eagles. How?
All right, I'm excited. I'm excited about the Eagles. They won a lot of. So
first, wait. One thing. I want you to tell me how you felt before the game, and then how you felt after the game. Like, were you nervous before the game?
No, I was confident. I kind of thought that, like, before the season started, when I looked and analyzed the schedule, I kind of already knew, because I'm not new at this Eagles thing. Like, they always lose a game that they shouldn't lose. Last year was against the Commanders. They always are guaranteed to lose at least one game that you can just put in the category of shouldn't have lost. And so they got it. Got it out the way. With the Jets, history was made. Congratulations to the Jets fans. The first time ever that you beat the Eagles ever in the history of both of those franchises.
That's such a crazy stat.
Yeah, so a lot of history was made in the 2 weeks. The Phillies lost their first ever Game 7 in 141 years of existence. Crazy that they've been around that long, but first Game 7 ever in their history. So 0-1. So maybe that's why they made sure they never got to a Game 7 until this week. And then the Eagles lost for the first time ever to the Jets. So there's a lot of history going on in these last 2 weeks. But the Eagles,
there is.
I was excited about it. A little nervous. But the Eagles, I knew that they were coming upset and pissed, and the Dolphins were just the victim of being pissed that they lost to a New York team, a trash New York team at that. Yeah. No offense to the Jets fans, but y'all know y'all team trash. Y'all know how Aaron Rodgers is.
I know. What's so sad is that all these games that the Jets are playing, like, you just think what could have been if Aaron Rodgers was playing in them. Like, these games would have been so fun. And like, no shade to Zach Wilson. I think the kid is he's in an impossible situation, in my opinion. Right. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback that's ever existed, but I do think that he's in an impossible situation. But God, you wonder, like, how much fun that game could have been. And, would it have been, would would the Eagles have prepared differently playing against the Jets if they had known they were playing against Aaron Rodgers? Did they lose because they thought they were just playing the Jets and Zach Wilson and they didn't have to try that hard? It's just always interesting to think about the what ifs. And again, it's not, there's injuries happen in football, but that injury, even for somebody who's like, I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, like, that stunk. I still wanted to see him play.
Yeah. No, we wish Aaron Rodgers a speedy recovery. But to my thoughts, right? So the Eagles did.
Yes. Go. I want to hear what your thoughts are.
The Eagles did what the Commanders did. Now, what if I told you that when the Eagles lost to the Commanders last year, they lost the most important battle. No, not the battle of the trenches. It was the battle of time of possession. Now, the Eagles had the ball for
Okay.
36 minutes and 43 seconds, and the Dolphins only had the
Mhm.
ball for 28 minutes and 17 seconds. Now, I know a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's 4 quarters in football, but if you have the ball more, you're more than likely going to win. And so, unfortunately for the
It's true.
Dolphins, the injuries on defense kind of caught up with them, and then they lost Jalen Waddle in this game to a back thing. I know the Eagles have been making people mad because with the brotherly shove, the tush push. I know
I was gonna say, how
Mike
you feeling
Florio
about the
hates
tush push?
Mike Florio hates it, but like I love it. I love it. It's great. It's an
Of course
unstoppable
you do.
thing.
You're
No one can
winning.
stop. That no one can stop.
Hey,
Even
my team tried to do it, and we hurt 3 people so badly, they're still injured. We tried they were like, "We're just gonna like the Giants, we're just gonna try it." We tried it,
right,
and we literally 3 of our players hurt. One, our centers, I think he might be playing this week, was out for like 3 weeks because they were like,
yes,
"Let's just gonna try it." Like, he's no Jason Kelsey. Like, he's
right.
not, really. Like, love
I
you, Smith, but you're not Jason Kelsey.
Right, it's just a special thing
So,
that only the Eagles can do, and I mean, like it'll be success. I don't want it banned. I like, unfortunately, what
well, of
happened to
course you
Brock
don't want it
Purdy
banned.
happened, but like they don't want it banned. I mean, they didn't ban helmet catches when your team used the helmet catch to beat the Patriots. Like they didn't ban that.
It's fair.
They,
Fair.
they weren't banning
It's
the
fair.
QB sneak when the Patriots were doing it. Like, they don't ban much of anything. But when it's Philadelphia, it's like, all right, we got to get rid of this. So are we going to ban tackling now since Jalen Waddle hurt his back getting tackled? We're going to
I
ban
mean, they
tackling now?
might. They might.
We're going
Have
to
you
ban
seen the roughing
tackling
the
now?
passer calls recently?
Or
Okay, so
ban
so kind of looking at that game, you guys came out with the win, obviously, which was really, really important. What are
right.
your thoughts on this kind of mysterious knee injury of Jalen? Is it something that like you're concerned about? I know today or yesterday, Nick Sirianni, he said we're hopeful that there'll be no limitations on Sunday. And then Jalen Hurts said we're just something that we're dealing with day by day, taking it one day at a time. And then when he got pressed by the reporters, he was like, I already said it didn't happen at the game. So it's a little bit confusing because he was limping and wearing a brace at Miami. So are the assumptions that it happened prior to the game in Miami and the game at Miami just aggravated it? Is that what you're hearing on your end? Or
I think it
I don't
happened
know,
either
because
then. Go ahead.
no, I was just asking. Because I haven't. That's kind of the most that I've heard is that it's kind of mysterious. Like no one's they won't talk about it. They're not reporting it. He's not on the injury report.
All right. So I think it happened either during a practice, because the Eagles do go hard in practice, or it's just something that's been nagging because he had the leg and knee thing last year, which kept him out for a while
Mhm.
too. So
Yeah.
like I just think it's a nagging thing. Maybe he needs surgery, and he won't do it. Maybe it's something that he can't hurt any further. So I just think that a lot of it with Jalen is up to pain tolerance. This man lifts 600 pounds, man. He's got a
Yeah.
broad shoulders. He's holding the city of Philadelphia's whole hopes on his shoulders. So the Eagles are going to do what they need to do. I fully expect them to destroy the Commanders this Sunday. I don't think it's anything
I mean,
serious. If it was anything serious, I mean, they basically have a giveaway game on Sunday against the Commanders that they can afford to give away because the
yeah,
Cowboys
they're a
aren't catching up.
dumpster fire.
So
They're
like
the
they could,
Commanders are a dumpster fire, so
yes, we'll get to the Commanders in a few minutes,
we
but
will,
like
we will. I have many thoughts on them.
the Eagles, the
Um,
Eagles can afford to give this game away. So if there was anything
yeah,
serious, I don't think he would play on Sunday. And I know a lot of
okay,
Eagles fans don't want to hear the name Marcus Mariota ever. So a lot of people
yeah.
are hoping and praying that his knee is good. So I think it'll be fine. I think as long as I mean, we were talking about this, you and I, and a lot of other people when I saw them these past few days in Connecticut about Jalen Hurts' knee. He hasn't been running. It's a thing that we've noticed. He didn't really play in the preseason, but since the first game that he doesn't really run. When he does run, he slides. Hasn't really
Yeah.
been doing Jalen Hurts stuff, which is boom, we're gonna hit the truck stick in Madden. I'm gonna run your behinds over. I'm getting this touchdown. And I think that's
Yes.
some stuff from last year coming over because he hurt his shoulder and then he had a knee thing. Again, this all happened to the Bears. So I think it's just back from that. And I just think that, it'll, worst come to worst, they'll shoot him up with whatever they shot Patrick Mahomes up with during the Super Bowl, and he'll be fine.
True.
So, I have no worries about
Big
Jalen
dose of
Hurts' knee.
cortisone or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think if I could give more thoughts about this game, like I think that, credit to the Eagles defense because they did what Chris Sims, what Mike Florio and everybody else, even I didn't think would happen. Like if you asked me what I thought about this game before, I thought this game would be a shootout, right?
Yeah.
I thought that like these two teams would combine for like 100 points, that it would be like 50 to 40.
No, I think a lot of people did.
Like because the Dolphins are like an unstoppable offense. But credit to Sean Desai, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter. What up, my Georgia Bulldogs?
I was gonna say, just the Georgia Bulldogs. So.
Right. So like I was so excited to see this. They put pressure on Tua. They shut down Raheem Mostert. I mean, the run game was kind of hurt because Devin Achane wasn't there, or Achane. How I know that he's we've been mispronouncing it apparently.
I think is what the people are saying.
Yeah,
I think it's Achane.
Yeah, Achane for a little while now.
I also feel like it keeps changing, but
yeah. Well, yeah, who knows? But yeah, so credit to the Eagles defense only holding them to 17 points. This has never happened. The Bills didn't do it. So I mean, Sean Desai is showing that he can do a lot with less. I mean, against the Jets, the Eagles didn't have Darius Slay and Jalen Carter. I feel like if they had both of those players, that result might have been different. But they rock. The Eagles aren't complaining. I'm not going to complain about that loss. They lost because they turned the ball over too much. And even still, it just shows, right? The Eagles controlled this game throughout. Even though they had 2 turnovers, they controlled the game. And
I was just going to ask you about those.
When the Eagles want to impose their will, like no team can stop them. When they want to impose their will, nobody can stop them. Not them boys in San Fran, who we're about to get to too. Not them boys, not them boys in New York, Washington, or Dallas. Like when the Eagles want to impose their will, nobody can stop them.
So speaking of those turnovers, are you worried about them at all? He has 10 turnovers this season, which is a lot. It's the second highest behind Desmond Ridder. So just throwing that out there. Is that something that you're concerned about, or because I think sometimes turnovers can get a bad name because I think sometimes it indicates that they're taking shots downfield, they're doing things, and again, some of these turnovers are not necessarily their fault. Tipped balls, receivers just openly not catching them. Is that something that you're worried about, or you just think it's kind of a nature of the game and they'll figure it out?
I just think sometimes Jalen Hurts does too much, right? Like sometimes he wants to make the big play. And some of those turnovers aren't his fault. Like the second interception that wound up being a pick six. That one you can blame it on the game. Some people are calling it the ball don't lie pick six, like because James Bradbury got away with a blatant face mask, and like I will admit, it was anybody who see the play. It's hard to say that like it wasn't a blatant face mask. And I like James Bradbury. That's why. Again, shout out to the Giants for getting rid of him and him fighting his way down I-95. So
doing much better with you than he did with us.
The Eagles have benefited from James Bradbury being tough, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Didn't work out in the Super Bowl, and apparently the refs didn't see it on Sunday. So the Eagles benefited from no calls and no calls. So. No, but to Jalen's turnovers, I just feel like with him, with the fumble, he was doing too much. He should have gotten the ball out. The pocket was collapsing, and he didn't get the ball out, and he wound up fumbling. Now it only ended up in a field goal because the craziest stat was even though Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense has been in the mud and was turning the ball over up until they faced the Jets. The Eagles defense had not allowed, and this is a crazy stat, which I know you probably have down on your paper, they hadn't allowed a turnover in the red zone or a touchdown off a turnover all year. So up until 2 weeks ago against the Jets, they were 7 games in, turning the ball over as much as you said 10 times without a score. So like, I think with the way the Eagles defense is constructed, like people like it's hard to say that a team that almost had like was competing with the 86-85 Bears for the sack record last year is flying under the radar, but it kind of seems like the Eagles defense is flying under the radar because like everybody's talking about the Browns defense, the Ravens defense. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, the Eagles are sacking everybody. They just held the most vaunted offense in football to 17 points. And yet nobody's talking about them. Everything was.
I'm talking about them. I have them as they're my fantasy team. They're actually my fantasy football defense. So it's the only part of the team that I'm enjoying right now. So kind of like looking really, because they're making my team look like a joke. But looking at that and what they were able to do to the Dolphins. We all thought that again, it was going to be a shootout. It's going to be a big 40 to 50 game, whatever, close to 100 points. Over was going to get blasted, whatever. Are they the best team in the AFC? Is there somebody else? And does the Tua injury, not the Tua, I'm sorry, the Tyreek injury, does that contribute to that? If Tyreek is out for a few weeks, are we concerned? Are we saying, and I know Tua was like, no, we're a unit, but that team, they revolve around having Tyreek Hill on that team. They revolve around having somebody who is just playing faster than everybody else. That's just a fact. He's so fast. There's a reason they call him the cheetah. So if he's in, I think there is a significant argument for him being the best team in the AFC. I do. For the Giants, or not the Giants, the Dolphins being the best team in the AFC. I do.
I get it. You've been up since 5. Like, we understand.
Yeah, I know. My brain is like a little fried. But when Tyreek Hill is not there, I don't know how effective. Yes, they have Achane, they have Mostert, they have people that can do stuff, but I don't know. Without him, that pass offense suffers significantly because Tua can't just lob it up and say Tyreek will get, because he throws it. When you watch some of these plays, he throws it so far, you're like, oh my God, that's way overthrown. And then you're like, oh no, it's not. It's to Tyreek. And he can get there.
Yeah, to me, I just think that the Dolphins are a really deep team. Obviously, they're starting to get healthy on the defensive side. They should get Jalen Ramsey back in a few weeks and a couple of their other defenders who are missing for defense. We want to talk about good defenses. The Dolphins have a good defense. Offensively, I just think, they're missing Achane, as you pointed out. Seems like Mostert has an ankle injury now, too. And like, Waddle, obviously, we talked about that, had the back during the Eagles game. And now Tyreek. I just think that a lot of it now, I mean, if you're Tua's family member or Tua's agent, right now your eyes are wide open because right now it is all on Tua. This right now can either make or break an extension for Tua Tagovailoa. A lot of people that's been flying under the radar this season because, the Dolphins could be back to square one at the end of this season if they don't pick up Tua's option, And so I think that, this Tua needs to, do what I said last summer. I said harden up for James Harden. This time I'm saying it's time to Tua up, Tua. It's time to tune up, bro.
I like it.
Because, fins up, bro. It's time because everybody's injured right now. It's all on you. There might not be any Raheem Mostert this week. There might not be. I mean, Tyreek, just for some more topical reporting, Tyreek did practice today. So he's looking like he'll probably play.
Last I heard. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. Because I heard he didn't practice Wednesday.
Right.
I didn't hear if he practiced or not today. Okay, that's good.
So he did.
So my question is just like looking at. Yeah.
Yeah. To answer your question, I think the Dolphins are a good team. They're the second best team. But if this team didn't exist, and we might as well just get to them now, there's a blank space in the Super Bowl and you know who I'm about to say. You
I
might as
saw
well
what you
write
did.
in
I saw
the
what you
Kansas
did there.
City Chiefs because you Swifties see what I did there? Like write it in
I love that.
because it's the Kansas City Chiefs world, and everybody else in the AFC is just being allowed to breathe in it. You know, I've got some Raiders fans in my life.
Yeah.
They hate me saying it, but you know, it's the Chiefs world. As
It's
long as Patrick Mahomes is still on that team and still healthy, and as my Eagles found out, at least has one good leg and a lot of drugs in it. It's going to be hard to beat the Chiefs, man. Like that's the Chiefs
it's
title.
just so
Like
special.
you know when you think that team couldn't get any more of a juggernaut, Travis Kelce finds some way to date, you know, Taylor Swift. I know a lot of y'all don't want to hear about Taylor Swift even in this podcast, but you know it's kind of hard to avoid the Chiefs when like their second best player is dating Taylor Swift. So like
It's crazy.
so like it's the Chiefs world. If the Chiefs didn't exist or if they like had a down year, then I might say, oh yeah, the Dolphins can get them. Oh yeah, the Bills can get them, right? But the Chiefs haven't lost since the Lions had something for them. And the only reason, like, you know, all credit to the Lions, right? They've been good. They've been one of the surprise teams of this season. But, you know, even they will admit probably that the only reason they won that game is because of your former boys' drops and not having Travis Kelce. Like, if Travis Kelce's there, like, you know, Kadarius Toney probably catches more balls, right? Like, you know, there's probably a wider open space if he's there. So like the Lions benefited. They did something the Eagles couldn't do. I don't want Lions fans to think I'm hating because y'all did something the Eagles couldn't do.
No, I don't think it.
Y'all did something a lot of teams haven't done since the Cincinnati Bengals, which is beat the Chiefs in any football game that matters, right?
Capacity
like,
at all.
Yeah, so like no hate there, but like, you know, it's the Chiefs world. The Dolphins are just living in it, like, you know, and the Dolphins can get healthy. I think they blew their shot at a winter game in Miami. I don't mean to sound like Stephen A. Smith because obviously I'm probably not traveling to Miami unless something like drastically changes. Maybe you will because maybe that'll be the NBC playoff game. But like, you know,
I would love that. And like January. Oh, that'd be so nice.
Yeah. So like, you know, it's the Dolphins. The Dolphins probably have the second best chance if something happens to the Chiefs in these next 9 weeks. In these next 9 weeks, maybe. But barring any unforeseen injury, like to Mahomes or anybody else, not that I'm wishing that on anybody, but barring any like unforeseen injury,
no, but that's just a fact. You're not wishing. You're just saying if it happens that we can bring this conversation back. But you know, I'm going to preface this by saying I do not think that the NFL is scripted. I do not believe that. However, if I did think that the NFL was scripted, the Chiefs are playing a storybook year. Like I can't even wrap my head around it. I was sitting in the control room for Sunday night 3-4 weeks ago, whenever the Taylor went to that first game, and I got a notification on my phone because I love Taylor. I'm not a crazy Swiftie. I'm not like some of the people are, but I do like Taylor. I'm a 28-year-old girl from Virginia. I grew up listening to country music. You know, she's very close to age in me. I have grown up listening to her and I love her, but I'm not obsessed with her. But I get a notification on Twitter that Taylor Swift is expected to be at the game. I like look up and I was like, Taylor Swift's going to be at the game today. Everyone's like, no, she's not. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, whatever. Little, you know, 10 minutes later, camera pans up. She's there. I mean, the Chiefs didn't need any more publicity. Travis Kelce really didn't need any more publicity. He's in every commercial that's ever existed in sports right now. He's arguably, I don't even know if it's arguably the best tight end in the league right now. And now he's dating arguably the most famous person on the planet currently. And I don't know how you write a better season. They haven't lost since opening night. They look unbelievable. Last game, Patrick Mahomes threw for 4 touchdowns. And he was talking about Travis Kelce after the game. He said it's like he's playing Madden. It's like I'm playing Madden and Travis Kelce is my tight end. And I mean, everything he throws to him, he catches. It's unbelievable. And they don't seem to have any weak spots. And yeah, like they're not crushing teams. They're not winning by 100 points like we've seen them in the past. They're keeping it close, and sometimes it kind of they make you nervous, but they find a way to win at the end. They pull it out in the end. It shows the experience, the veterans that they have on that team. And I don't know how you write a better season from top to bottom. And again, it's week 8. I'm gonna like calm my brakes, Morgan, but like up to now, everything is coming up Chiefs. I mean, everyone's talking about Taylor Swift, and it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's the 2 best teams, right? A lot of people don't like the fact that like both of the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year have literally just, they just keep doing things to win. Both of them have losses that shouldn't have happened. The Chiefs to the Lions, and again, no hate to the Lions. They did what my Eagles couldn't do months ago. So this again, no shade to Detroit at all, but like the Eagles lost to the Jets for the first time ever in their history. So like,
yeah,
but they've all just been steadily doing stuff, steadily improving. Like, the Chiefs just got Mecole Hardman back from the Jets.
Yeah,
the Eagles just got Kevin Baird from the Titans. Again, Howie Roseman fleecing the Titans. Like the Titans.
I was actually just about to say that. I think so much of this credit, the unsung heroes, I really think you have to give it some huge shout out to the GM from the Chiefs, Brett Veach, and the GM from the Eagles, Howie Roseman. I mean, and I have actually gotten the opportunity to talk to both of them. I've been in interviews with both of them, and I've actually been out to dinner in a group with Brett Veach. And the way that they talk about football is so different than the way that other people talk about it. And both of them have kind of unique journeys getting there. They both aren't like, neither of them played. It wasn't, I know a lot of people think, oh, you have to be a scout forever. You have to be this. Like they kind of both had unique paths to get into that GM job. And I think it shows, and they have been able to create 2 of the best teams that we have seen in football in a very long time.
Right. So
and
this is
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, and so
go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, this is just a memo. Like, if you get a phone call and you're a GM of another team from either Philadelphia or Kansas City, hang up. Hang up.
Yeah. I don't know what they do on the phone. These conversations, and they're both slightly like soft-spoken and quieter, but when they talk to you, it's engaging and it's interesting, and you feel like you have to listen. And it's some kind of like voodoo something. I don't know that they're doing on these teams to get them to trade these players to them. And so kind of let's make that shift, back over to the Eagles a little bit. And I think we've kind of both said that, yes, they are the best team in the NFC. But if we weren't going to say the Eagles, because the Eagles are good, but the Eagles have shown that they do have flaws. And again, so do the Chiefs. They do have flaws. But I think in my opinion, there are stronger teams in the NFC than there are in the AFC this year. And I think there are teams that could give a more challenging path to the Super Bowl to the Eagles than the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have a much easier path just because of the teams that are surrounding them. Whereas I think that, and again, football, we were kind of talking about this before we started, that what's so interesting about football, and I think that some people forget, that the talent level between the worst team in the NFL and the best team in the NFL is so thin. And people sometimes don't realize that, but it really is. And any given day, one person's hurt, one person just doesn't have their best game, something happens, they can't play, it can completely change the game. And we've seen it twice now with teams beating teams that shouldn't have beaten them. The Jets should never have beaten the Eagles, that game. And I think that we can see that it can happen. It can happen in that one game thing. So and I know this is going to hurt your heart, but who do you think give your team the biggest challenge? Let's put it that way. That's a nicer way to put it. And like, who do you think challenges them the most and would be somebody that, let's say, you wouldn't want to see on your path to the Super Bowl and the playoffs?
I mean, even though I'm not scared of them, the San Francisco Niners have been talking a lot of trash and then been losing
Yeah,
2 straight. You know, they
which is
the
crazy. Which
the
is crazy.
Niners, yeah, the Niners, for a team that was looking dominant, they did us a solid, by destroying the Cowboys on national television. I don't know of anybody who wasn't a Cowboys fan that wasn't sitting there with their popcorn smiling at the TV. I've never been a bigger Niners fan than
Yep.
I was every time they play the Cowboys, right? But the Niners are
Every
the
time anyone
team,
plays the Cowboys.
right? The Niners, facts. The Niners are the team that will probably give the Eagles the best fight. Now we'll get to see on
Yeah.
December 3rd, 4 o'clock game. Now I have, even though we both work for NBC, it's not like they give us any heads up on this, but I have a strong feeling. I don't remember what the SNF game is on December 3rd, but I think I have a strong feeling. No one's
Let me
told me
check.
this, but I just think hint hint. I have no inside knowledge on this, even though we both work for NBC, but I just think hint hint that the powers that be at SNF might want to see if they can flex the Eagles and Niners to the SNF game. Just saying. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if
December 3rd.
I don't know if there's a better game
Well,
fast enough
our
on the
game
third.
currently is the Chiefs Packers. So
Nobody
Packers
wants
aren't great, but I mean, I can't tell you the amount. That would be I think that would be our third. At that point, that might be our fourth Chiefs game. So that could be a possibility. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure when flex starts. It could be week 11 that flexing can start. I don't exactly remember, so that game is week 14.
Yeah,
So you're definitely in flex zone for
yeah,
sure there.
yeah.
The
The
other
Packers.
game that
Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say there aren't very many other like good games. The only other game I could see, oh no, that's the Monday night game. The Monday night game that week is actually, it could be a good game. Bengals Jaguars, if it gets down to it,
Yeah,
if they both start playing better, but they're not going to flex out that game.
right. If the Packers,
so that could be interesting.
Yeah, the Packers still suck, which they probably will. No offense to the Packers fans, but y'all know y'all in for a long rebuild and a long time until Jordan Love gets comfortable. I just think, Purdy, Hurts, Eagles, Niners is just a sexier matchup. Unless there's a guarantee on your Swift watch that Taylor Swift shows up. I don't think there's a reason to keep that game at 8 o'clock, even though it is Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, come on now. East Coast, West Coast.
I know. It'd be great.
Yeah.
I just have to say, okay, this is just funny to me. Guess who is in first place of the NFC South? I mean, it's not that hard to guess, but
the Falcons?
Do you know?
The Falcons,
yeah,
right?
The Falcons feel like they should have lost every single game they've played. I don't know why that just feels like that to me, but they're 4-3, which actually is higher than I thought they are. But the Bucks are 3-3, the Saints are 3-4, and the Panthers are 0-6. There is a good chance that whoever wins that division will be under 500. And again, I love when that happens. It makes me happy. I have to say, minus the last 3 years, that was an NFC East special, where our winner would be barely over 500 or at 500.
5-11. The Niners would give them the best chance. And again, shout out to all the Niners fans in the building in Stamford, Connecticut.
There are a lot of Niners fans.
Yeah, there's a lot of former West Coast people on the East Coast now. Shout out to the Bay. This is no disrespect to the Niners. Like, they're a great team. Unfortunately they've had some injuries, but again, it's gonna be Eagles Niners probably in Philadelphia. Barring any unforeseen second loss for the Eagles. I think the Niners have basically
we'll give you a run for your money. Don't worry.
It's blown. It's blown. Like, the 1 seed is basically dead. I know a lot of our people were delusion. No offense to our talent, but some of them were delusional, thinking the Niners wouldn't lose. It's more than one game, especially in the NFC.
I said it at one point
where they beat each other up so much, it's not even funny. I knew that second loss. They haven't swept the Seahawks since they drafted Russell Wilson. So and now they have Geno Smith. The Niners and Seahawks always play each other's tough. everything is always a wash in the NFC West, except for that. Like, it's always a guarantee that they're going to split. So the Niners were always guaranteed to at least lose one game, which would probably have been to the Seahawks. And then it was just a matter of time which one they would lose, right? And unfortunately, none of us called that they would lose to Mike Florio's Vikings. And I know he's been smiling all week about it. But
my God, he was so happy. Our whole rundown of our show got thrown out. He talked about them for like the first hour and a half of the show. It's a 2-hour show.
Right.
Courtney, the producer, was like, my rundown is done. We talked about this game for way too long. Let's stay in the NFC and let's go to my team. We'll make this quick because
I'll let you. Let you talk. That's your team. This specifically, just so y'all know, she put a gun to my head because I wasn't going to talk about this game. Yeah. No, I threw her a bone.
I have so many opinions. Here's the thing. I have been a Giants fan my whole life. And normally, I don't get my hopes up. Even when we won the Super Bowl those 2 years that I've seen, those were years where we were like 0-4 to start the season, came back, had this miracle run, we're a wild card team. You know, I was excited this year. And I knew I shouldn't have been, but I was excited. And I know that the NFL was excited because we've had 17,000 primetime games somehow in the first 7 weeks of this season. And I just got my hopes up. I really did. I was so confident that first game that we were going to beat beat Dallas, and then we lost 0-40. And I was like, that's a fluke. They just came out flat, and then they came out flat again. I was like, okay, well, I think that they have a lot of really good pieces on the team, and that's what's frustrating is that I like Daniel Jones. I think that he's an amazing quarterback. I think when him and Saquon are on the field together, it's hard to beat them in the run game because they're both threats in the run. He's gotten his turnovers primarily under control. He had a few bad ones, of course, in the first couple games of the season. I know. But and the Cowboys game is like, we don't even talk about it. Like, that game was just so bad. It's not even worth talking about. Like, it got to the point where I think they were just like, what is happening? And there's no game plan at that point. You are down. You like almost physically cannot come back. But I do think that he has improved from each year. And I think that the big difference is that you can see the drop-off is when Saquon's not in the field. And I think that a lot of people are saying, oh, give the job to Tyrod, blah, blah, blah. Okay, calm down, everybody. Tyrod got to play with Saquon. Like, what are we doing? Saquon is the best player on our team. That is not an exaggeration. Like, there is no one better. He is the best player on our team. All of our receivers are like children. They're babies. Like, Wan'Dale, this is pretty much his rookie season. He played like 2 games last year. We have Jalen Hyatt, who is great, but our offensive line has been so bad that Daniel Jones doesn't have time to get the ball downfield to him. So it's a combination of all of these things. Our offensive line is now, I'm not even going to call them healthy. I'm going to call them stable. They're getting healthy. Saquon's back. And again, right now, the difference between Tyrod and Daniel Jones isn't a ton. Tyrod's an amazing backup quarterback, and I think what he's done the last 2 weeks has been amazing. This week coming up, I'm not necessarily worried about if Tyrod or Daniel Jones plays. Obviously, I would prefer Daniel Jones to play, but I think with Saquon healthy, with our offensive line a little bit healthier, if he needs to take one more week, I'm okay with taking that week against the Jets. I think it's going to be a crazy game. It's at home against the Jets. So we're technically the home game, which kind of sucks because that means the Jets technically get another home game. But I think that'll be an amazing experience for anybody that's going. That doesn't happen super often. They always play in preseason, but happening for an actual game, I think would be really cool. I actually really wish that I could go to the game. Obviously, I will be working, but it'll be an amazing environment. It'll be a really cool experience. And I think it'll be a good game. Something that a lot of the people that we work with continue to say is that the Giants do really well when the other team doesn't score. And I know that sounds like stupid, of course, the other team, but if they can keep that game really low scoring, because their defense really is good. And that is what I have faith in. So the question here is, are the Giants going to go back and are they going to, get another win going, so we can look back at the Commanders game and looking forward to both. We'll kind of do a little bit of both. Wink Martindale, what he is able to do on those defensive schemes is brilliant. He is so hard to beat when it comes to making plays. He makes you think they're going to do something different. He blitzes when he needs to blitz. He plays man when they need to play man. They're so sharp on defense right now, and you could see it specifically in the Commanders game where a lot of people were upset because they're like, Daboll isn't going for it. No, it's not that he's not going for it. It's that he trusts their defense to hold them, which I think is an important factor. They got 1 touchdown last game. The Commanders did. And the Commanders, they weren't playing terribly before this game. They were playing okay, but I think this game was the real time where we were like, oh no, they're a dumpster fire. Ron Rivera has just no idea what he's doing at head coach anymore. They need to fire everybody and do a rebuild. But
and that's somebody
I think the
DC
big story
saying that. And that's a DMV.
I am, and again, I'm from DC.
We lost you. Morgan, we lost you.
Oh, you lost me? Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Am I back? Awesome. Sorry. Where did I leave off? Where
we were talking about Ron Rivera.
Rivera is an amazing.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera is an amazing person. Players love him. The staff, coaching staff loves him. But you watch him on the side of the game and he stands like this the whole game. He's not calling plays. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like generally curious. I'm like, what? Are you calling anything? Are you coaching? Like, what is happening? And then he gets a little angry and like, there's a little bit of emotion. Then, like, I'm not even kidding you. They asked me to cut highlights of Ron Rivera on the sidelines. And I was like, all of these highlights look exactly the same and they're all at different points in the game. So I think the next step for them, for the Commanders, is they need to just move Ron Rivera to a front office position, whether that's player personnel or, I don't know, one of those kind of titles that doesn't really do much, but is still involved. Yeah, like a consultant for the team. Because I think the people, they do like him around the community, but man, they need someone else in there. And I don't know if Sam Howell's it. I can't tell. I don't. The Commanders fans seem to think he is. I don't know.
Tag me in, Coach. I'll give you a break.
Yeah. What do you think?
Tag me in, Coach. Look, man.
I'm tagging you in.
The Giants did got a win. Shout out to you. I need to give him a shout out because he's probably somewhere when he watches this later is going to be so happy. One of my mentors, David Barnes, he's a big Giants fan as well. He's a native New Yorker who now lives in the Philadelphia area. Great guy. I want to shout him out and all the other Giants fans that I know in my life. Daniel Booth, who's a sports anchor down in Georgia, in Gainesville, Georgia. Another Georgia reference. I want to give all those people. I'm sorry, Augusta, Georgia, but Georgia. So I want to give all those people, those long-suffering Giants fans, even though y'all won titles in 2008 and 2012, all those long-suffering Giants fans, you won a game. So excited for you. We got a Darren Waller sighting. You're on mute. Darren Waller.
How did I mute myself? No, we scored a offensive touchdown in the first half. It's a win. It's a win.
Yes.
Yes.
We had a Darren Waller sighting, and Darren Waller had an exciting week. Shout out to the Las Vegas Aces and his wife Kelsey Plum.
Yes.
They won a title. He's one half of one of the sports world's one of the most power couples. So we will give him that. Kelsey Plum is a gangster, one of the best, a real good WNBA player. Like she is. Good. She is gangster. Like she's a gangster's gangster. Like if you don't watch the WNBA and you need a player that like defines it, like check out Kelsey Plum highlights. Like that girl is like.
Have you seen how they partied after they won?
I did.
I don't think any professional sports organization parties harder than the WNBA once they win. They were drunk at their post-game press conference. And I was like, yes, that is how you do it. They were popping bottles everywhere. It was exciting. I actually got to I was at the Barclays Center the day before they won. And they were getting everything set up for it. It was cool to be there. I know obviously Liberty was hosting, but
Right.
I was just like, I watched the end of that game and I was like, man, those girls are just rocking. I was,
Right.
Little digression, but like that's how you win a championship.
Right. I don't think the only team that probably gave them a run for their money is the Nuggets. And again, we'll get to them during the NBA portion. But basketball players, they just party hard, man. They win their games and then they go play and then they go party. Like that's what they do. Yeah. So like, the Giants, man, you won a game. As an Eagles fan and as an Eagles reporter, when I'm not like wearing my fan hat, when the Giants are stable, it's a great time in the league, and so I will give y'all that. I'm not going to say anything too bad about the Giants because they won. Darren Waller, I kind of happy that he's finally had a good game for y'all. For a while he was kind of like the invisible man. I don't want to say, well, the invisible man in the NFL is Kyle Pitts. I know a lot of you who are Kyle Pitts fantasy owners are probably very upset at Arthur Smith, and he kind of made fun of y'all yesterday. So, well, y'all down bad.
What a weird press conference that was. What a weird press conference that was.
He kind of pissed a lot of people off.
I've never seen
politics.
That man, he has his emotions right here. His emotions are literally right here, and it shows on his whole face the whole game. I'm like,
right.
Are you okay? Right. Like, you need a hug. You need a hug.
Right.
You do.
Right. I know that Kyle Pitts is the invisible man as far as tight ends, but Tyrod, if nothing else, he resurrected Darren Waller, and you guys got to win. And it segues perfectly into our next question. Who's going to be at the bottom of our conference? Will it be the Giants or the Commanders? And I'll start here because you've already buried your DC residency. So let me bury mine, because we talked about this when we first met, that I used to live in DC as well a couple of years ago. So let me just toss the shovel onto the Commanders even more. Even though the 76ers owner now owns the Commanders, the Commanders, it's done for y'all, man. I know Matthew Berry is a big Commanders fan. Even though I don't think he has any
he's very funny in the control room
relation to DC at all. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think he has any relation.
I actually don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. He may have lived there for a while or grew up in Maryland, maybe as a child. Now that you say that, I'm not sure.
Maybe he moved around, because I know originally he's from Texas, right? So I think he may have moved around. Obviously, he went to Syracuse. Shout out to my alma mater. But it's the Commanders are just a dumpster fire, like you said, Morgan, and you're from there, born and raised, the DMV. But
I lived there until I was 18.
It's over for y'all. It's Sam Howell. Let me help y'all out. He's not it. The Eagles have been there too when you have a quarterback, the Ty Detmers, the Nick Fosses of the world, you can just have quarterbacks that are not it. They're not franchise quarterbacks. They're good. They're good in helping, they're like a double cheeseburger, right? Think about the best burger you ever had, right? It's not healthy for you, but it's good, right? You don't have it all the time. That's kind of like them, right? They're like the double cheeseburger, the triple cheeseburger, whatever kind of cheeseburger you like, bro. That's them. That's them. That's Sam Howell. And the ultimate version of this, Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? That's the ultimate version of these backup QBs who are just that. They're just career backup QBs. They can be a starter for 6 or 7 games. This is no knock on Sam Howell. But Commanders fans, at this point, with the way your offensive line protects him, y'all must have a personal vendetta against that man, because he's fighting for his life. I haven't seen a quarterback fight for his life that much since Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. That man literally tosses back and probably is in his mind praying that his offensive line does something for him. They had nothing for him. So literally, all Leonard Williamson and them had to do was literally just get through the first initial guy, and it was like a C. Dude might as well have just been at the beach, because every time it was just every time he looked, he turned around, it was boom. There's Leonard Williamson. There's
It was so bad.
Dexter Lawrence. There's somebody. I mean, it was great. It was
Dexy.
great. It was great for Morgan and all the other Giants fans because usually that's Danny Dimes
Him
getting
doing
sacked.
his
But like,
dance. Yeah.
yeah. Like that's
So
them. But like, you know, it was Sam Howell, and I think at this point, Commanders fans, you should just like Magic Johnson, like, you know, a couple of weeks ago when y'all lost to the Bears by 40 points after my Eagles gave y'all a chance and let it go to overtime. And a lot of people in our building were messaging me. I think even Morgan texted me and was like, "What's going on? Why are the Bears like? Why are the Bears just?"
I mean, also, like, why did Ron Rivera not go for 2? Why did he not just go for 2? You weren't going to win it in overtime. You knew that. Like, you had the momentum. Go for 2. Again, Ron Rivera.
Right, but like mean mugging
all
over
he
there.
does.
But like, you know, like it's just with the Commanders is over, man. Just like y'all are embarrassing Magic Johnson on Amazon television, having him be like, "I've never been blown out this badly." Now, neither Morgan and I were alive during Magic Johnson's heyday, but like this man is a champion 5 times over. He's not used to losing. I mean, like, this is a Michigan State Spartan. Like, they don't lose. And you got this man just being like, I don't know why they were so happy to lose. And when Magic Johnson is saying that, like, Ron Rivera should have packed his bags like right after that game. Because, like, at this point, like, I know Ron Rivera is looking over his shoulder because that is Eric Bieniemy's job. Like, Ron, just retire now.
I wonder if he will do it halfway through the season. Like, I've kind of been waiting for, like, does he just let it go and give it to him?
Yeah, just retire right now. Commanders fans, just give it up. At this point, y'all should just start tanking for Caleb, Drake, or maybe even Shedeur Sanders. You know, get your Rolex on over there. I mean, y'all haven't had a swag like that at quarterback. Y'all haven't had a swag like that at quarterback since Robert Griffin III. And I know Commanders fans, at that point you went by another name that we don't talk about anymore. But like, you know,
do you want to hear a funny anecdote? So this is again, like, telling me that I grew up in DC. I know all of this. Me and all my friends in high school went to RG3 and Andrew Luck's first game against each other in preseason.
Okay.
And I couldn't even tell you, I must have been a sophomore or junior in high school. And we went and we were so excited. Again, me not even being a Commanders fan, I was so excited for them to have RG3. I was like, we have a quarterback. This is going to be fun. Like, it's going to actually be fun. Because I used to go to every time the Giants would come down and play the Commanders, we used to go. And like, yes, it's fun to win. But like, every time it was a blowout. Every time. And I was like, wow, they have a quarterback. All my friends are happy. This is going to be awesome. And the formerly named team managed to screw it up so badly that RG3 cannot play football anymore. Like, it is unimaginable how bad that front office was for so long. They finally have somebody new in there. They got to just and they have Bieniemy standing there in silence. And when you watch the games, they show Bieniemy more than they show Ron Rivera. Again, because Ron Rivera, all he does is this the whole game and he's not interesting.
Right.
But they have to they got to let him go. They do.
Now, I'm not Mike Florio. I mean, you see him more than I do. I'm not Mike Florio, but let me put my conspiracy hat on real quick. I don't think that
I love it.
Eric Bieniemy took that job as an OC and leave the land of milk and honey that was working with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid just to be Ron Rivera's OC. I think even Ron knows that his days are numbered.
They definitely told him.
His days are numbered.
They definitely were like, yeah. I completely agree. I think tanking for a quarterback is the best idea that they can do right now. Right. And again, I don't think Sam Howell is it. But
nobody but his family think he's it. This is no offense to Sam Howell, bro. But like, you know, you might as well just get ready because like the most likely of things is what'll probably happen is the Commanders will take your former backup in Drake May. let me just get you ready for this. Like,
or
the Commanders will probably have a top 10 pick. They will not because we're talking about they're not going to win. Like, I mean, let's be real. I mean,
They'll
they
win
have beat
stupid games at the end of the season.
right, right. They have beaten the
And
Eagles
then they'll
before.
blow themselves out of having a
Right,
good pick.
right. They have beaten the Eagles before, so I don't want to disrespect the Commanders, but that man that won y'all that game is in Tennessee right now. And I don't even think he's got a chance to even be the quarterback. So I think that says a lot more about him than the Commanders. But like, that it's over, man. It like Commanders fans, I know you want some hope. It's over. Maybe you'll get Drake May. Maybe you'll get Shedeur Sanders. You'll be able to take your pick. It won't be Caleb Williamson because he's probably going to Chicago. Maybe it'll be Justin Fields. I'll take my Mike Florio conspiracy hat off. Maybe it'll be Justin Fields.
That could be interesting. I have actually not thought of that before. That could be very interesting.
Yeah. So if the Bears get the top pick, which they probably won't, but if the Bears get the top pick, you look, like here's the thing, right? To me, you want some draft talk here. Like, more than likely the Panthers will have the top pick, and they already have their quarterback of the future, So what will probably happen is, even though I don't want it to happen, what's probably going to happen, and this is a perfect segue into talk about this team, what's probably going to happen, because the Panthers are 0-6 right now, I don't expect them to be 1-16. Maybe they'll be the first team to be 0-17, since they've added a game, right? So like maybe it'll be that. But if the Panthers don't win a game, right, they're going to get the number 1 pick, and then the Bears will have the number 2 pick. So it's probably going to end up happening.
They're not going to take a quarterback, right?
Right. They're not going to take a quarterback. So this is what's leading. Here's my thing, right? I think everybody has it wrong. Caleb Williams is not going to be the number 1 pick. If the Panthers have the number 1 pick, it's guaranteed he won't be the number 1 pick. You know what's going to be the number 1 pick? A man who has a famous NFL father, Marvin Harrison Jr. Because the Panthers need a receiver. They need somebody to blow the top off. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a top 2
pick. Put your bets in now, people.
And everything depends on which team gets the number 1 pick. But the Bears already have more wins than the Panthers. So if the Panthers don't win, or if they only win 1 game, then they're guaranteed to be the number 1 pick, to get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So they don't need, as we said, unless they want to play QB carousel.
What happens if I know that this isn't going to happen. Obviously, it can't happen. But like, what would happen if 2 teams went 0-16 or 0-17?
I don't know. I guess they flip a coin, right? Somebody should ask Mike Florio that.
Could you imagine you go 0-16 and you win the coin toss, and they're like, sorry. They're like,
right.
Loser. Actually, the winner has to go second. The loser goes first.
Right.
Right.
Like, but yeah, get your Marvin Harrison Jr. stock in, because I mean, look, if you're somebody who's betting, I mean, I'm not betting on games, but like, if you're betting on it, like right now, the best bet to be the number 1 pick, because they haven't won a game yet, is the Panthers, and we know the Panthers aren't going to play QB carousel. So who's the best receiver in the draft? It's Marvin Harrison Jr. I was just saying, because Howie Roseman is a wizard. And, this would be deadly and would suck for all the other teams. But he is from Philadelphia.
You're not getting one of the first 2 picks. You're not.
Yes. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
No.
I'm playing by Florio. I'm just throwing it out there. Howie Roseman has done some Jedi mind tricks before. I'll tell you right now, if he finds some way to get a top 3 pick and right the wrong and bring Marvin Harrison Jr. back home, I'll be so happy. But just remember, the specter of Philadelphia is always out there. So after you guys use him up, whoever it is, for 4 or 5 years, Howie Roseman will still be around to call him and be like, come on home, baby. Come on home.
All right. Well, it's not how I wanted to end my Thursday. That's
what the
fine.
thought of a
thought
of a 3-headed monster of AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
No,
is it fun for you?
Absolutely not happening. We need 1 receiver. One.
You got one. You got Jalen Hyatt.
I like Wendell. I love Jalen Hyatt. I love both of them, but our offensive line doesn't give anybody enough time to even get them the ball, so it's a moot point. Anyway, let's do our final quick thoughts on the NFL. We're already at 1 hour and 4 minutes, so let's do some quick thoughts on week 7 going into week 8, anything we're looking forward to, and then we'll jump over to opening night of the NBA.
Right. Okay.
Anything that you got?
Yeah. So like, you kind of hit on it, right? I will call this the shout out to all my Game of Thrones fans, the We Know Nothing award of the week. Like, we know nothing, Jon Snows and Jon Snows. We know nothing, right? Like week 7, I mean, like I said, who would have called the Vikings resurrecting the season by beating the Niners, right? And like the Niners fans, they've just been waiting until December 3rd, overlooking everybody else and only thinking about the Eagles. Let's just be real. And the Eagles were probably doing the same thing, thinking about the Dolphins instead of thinking about the Jets. But like, that's just what it is, right? The NFL is a week-to-week league. A lot of people who make a lot of money say this all the time, and a lot of us don't take it seriously, but it is like, the Eagles and Chiefs right now are the two dominant teams. But next week, at the end, 3 days from now, we might be saying it's somebody else. It might be the Jaguars. Who knows? But like, the dominant teams can easily fall off. But I still expect the Eagles and Chiefs. I've said this before to Morgan when we were doing it in July. Eagles, Chiefs, it'll be a repeat of the Super Bowl. More than likely, barring injury or something screwy happening. And like, the Niners need to prove themselves. I mean, they got Randy Gregory in the trade deadline, but they need something else, man. The Eagles need the same thing, right? The fact that the Eagles offensive line always comes down to the health of Lane Johnson on the right side, on Jalen Hurts' blind side, is a travesty. I'll say that, as in my job as a PA at NBC and also in my other job as an Eagles reporter, the health of the Philadelphia's offensive line shouldn't come at the expense or because of Lane Johnson. I love Lane. He's a great guy, great player, but he's getting older. This is no knock to him, but Father Time is undefeated, and the Eagles need to get a formidable backup in here, right? Now, I just said that they need to get Marvin Harrison Jr., but if they don't get him, they need to invest in a right tackle. I don't know if the Georgia Bulldogs have a good right tackle. I don't know if Alabama has a good right tackle.
I'm sure they do. Of course they do.
They probably do. I don't know if they're top 10, top 20 pick worthy where the Eagles will be. But Howie, if you're listening, go get a right tackle, bro. Like, get a right tackle. I know Lane's great. I'm not saying you need to trade him today. But, he's in his 30s. He's been relatively healthy, but the last 2 years have scared a lot of people. Get a good backup. Jake Driscoll, as great as he is not it. There's a lot of this. You could probably also title this podcast, insert player name here is not it. But because Jake Driscoll is not it. Like, he's not it. It doesn't matter how much of Jeff Stoutland University he has. He is not it. Lane Johnson is it. And the Eagles need a backup. There's a lot of this, right? The trade deadline's coming up. Like, the Eagles need a backup right tackle. They're getting healthy where it needs to be. The Niners need a new wide receiver because of Debo's shoulder injury. There's a lot. The good teams need other players. Like, the Chiefs need another receiver, so they went and got back Mecole Hardman. The Eagles went and got Julio Jones. I mean, you can tell just by what's been going on these last few weeks. And I mean, I didn't even call that they would get Julio Jones. But like, I do. I was telling Morgan the last time I saw her, the Eagles need a receiver, somebody in the slot. Quez ain't it. I know some of y'all like Quez Watkins. He is not it either. Like, and they went and got Julio Jones. They went and got Julio out of the retirement home. Like, Julio might be it right now. But the Eagles have weaknesses. Like, so if I could sum this up, for week 7 heading into week 8, we know nothing. Like, the top teams are telling us that because one of them went and got Mecole Hardman. Another one signed Julio Jones out of the retirement home. The Niners went and got Randy Gregory. Like, all the top teams need something, probably except for the Lions. And, shout out to the Lions fans, because who would have said that come and get to the season that the Lions are out here competing with the Eagles and Niners for a top spot in the NFC. Like, who called that? So congrats to them on that. But yeah, that's my overall thing. Like, we know nothing. All the top teams need something. Miami needs to get in on this before the trade deadline expires too. They need a lot too. So all the top teams need something. Buffalo might find themselves, they haven't been good since they blew out the Dolphins. Offensively, they've obviously been good. I don't want the Mafia coming for me. The Bills Mafia is crazy, but they haven't done anything since they beat the Dolphins a couple weeks ago. And didn't they drop like 50 in that game? Like, that was that was a Bills offensive high right there.
Yeah. I'm looking at the schedules from a few weeks ago. Let me see what that score was. No, they haven't been scoring as much as they could be or should be. I mean, 48 against the Dolphins.
Yeah, 50.
So my thoughts are I have a lot of the same opinions as you. A lot of these teams are just so heavily relying on their quarterbacks right now. They need to get them some weapons. They need to get them some offensive line that can help them. And kind of looking forward to the next couple of weeks. This is just like not a super exciting week of games. Week 8 is just not a lot of exciting matchups. My opinion, I know I'm a Giants fan, so it's probably skewed, but I think one of the more exciting matchups, I don't even know if it's going to be the best game, is Jets-Giants, only because it's both at MetLife. I just think that'll be a cool experience. But there's really not a lot that's left on here. There's a lot of teams that are playing angry, I guess you could say. So, the 49ers are playing the Bengals. I think that'll be an interesting game. Joe Burrow really just wants to get it going, and Niners are, but there's nothing really.
Good luck to Joe Burrow. They're definitely dropping 60. They're definitely dropping 60.
I know.
Good luck to Joe Burrow.
So looking forward to week 9. I think next week this pod will be super fun because there are some awesome games week 9 to talk about. Dolphins,
Eagles, Cowboys,
Chiefs,
baby.
Eagles, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals, Chargers, Jets. So it'll be just kind of like an interesting game. It'll be like kind of a weird one on Monday. So that's kind of all she wrote for the NFL right now. We're going to talk. So, of course, NBA had their opening night last night, right? And I was saying before the pod that the NBA is not my forte of sports. I have to say, of all of the professional sports, it's probably the one I watch the least. I attribute a lot of that to growing up in DC and having the displeasure of having to root for the Wizards for a long time. And we used to go to a lot of games, and then homeboy oh my God, Gilbert Arenas brought a gun to the locker room and then was kind of a disaster for a while. And then Jonathan Wall came and it was fun. We had the wall dance, that was fun. But we haven't been good in so long that I think so many people in DC, we just stopped watching. So I'm excited now that we're still, what's funny? My fiance said the same thing. His dad was like, well, you guys just all watch Georgetown basketball. And I was like, no, we don't. Like, I grew up right next to George Mason. So I guess I probably watched more of Mason than anybody, but it wasn't something that was just like a big sport, I guess, where I'm from. Kids played it. Like, I played basketball my whole life. I know it really well. I just never really played it. So I'm excited for this podcast because you're going to educate me on things. I have questions for you. You're going to educate me. And this is going to push me to watch more NBA games this season. And I'm excited. So I did watch a little last night. I wanted to see Wembanyama, who, I'm sorry, did you see that picture of him walking in where he legitimately looks like a praying mantis? His arms are so long. That man is so tall. If you sent somebody that picture, would be like, why did you Photoshop that? Like, he was built in a lab to play basketball. So that's kind of where I want to start. I know that, that might not be like your specific team, but he's probably the biggest name, the biggest talk right now in basketball. What did you think about his performance last night?
So I think he's living up to the hype. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not saying he's LeBron James or Michael Jordan. But if anybody, there's a lot of people that were like, yo, this dude, bro, sis. And he's that dude. This man was out here blocking shots and just not even needing to jump. Literally, people were getting shots up, and he was
wild.
He was out here. He was out here, little
It was like he
broing
was playing with
people,
children.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like little broing people. Like, you know, I can't wait to see him go up against Joel Embiid, the Joker, and all these other big men in the Western Conference. Chet Holmgren, you know, but 21 points. You know, he still got ways to go. Obviously, he was in foul trouble last night, or he probably would have done more
Yeah.
stuff. But this is the difference, right? These are the growing pains between, like, I know some basketball purists say like European basketball is better than the NBA, but no. Like, you know, European basketball is very good. Obviously, you got Luka Doncic and all the other European players that have come over here and they say, oh, you know, it's easier to score in the NBA than it is in Europe. But the reason they say that is because in European basketball, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, you know, you can goaltend, you can do all the stuff that we don't do in American basketball. Like you can like a charge isn't a charge over there. Like, you know, they think that what a charge is over here is kind of soft, whereas you literally have to bowl people over in Europe to actually get a charge call. I mean, a lot of people are going to see this next summer because like the FIBA rules are basically the European rules. So, you know, I know a lot of people, me included, when I first started watching Olympics basketball, get very upset at the fact that you can just literally put your hand up in the hoop and like that, the jaw literally has to go through the hoop for it to count. Like, you know, I know that pisses a lot of people off. So Victor Wembanyama is living up to the hype. He's got a long way to go. Obviously, even his coach said that. But, you know, it's great for San Antonio. They get another big man to mold and build their franchise around. Maybe they'll be in the playoffs in the next year and a half, not this year, once they can build around Victor Wembanyama. So I think that they'll be pretty good. Unfortunately, they lost to the Mavericks, which are a good team. You know, Luka, if y'all remember from what we recorded in July, I've said that, you know, a lot of people are on the Joel Embiid will end up in New York train. I'm telling y'all, it's going to be Luka Doncic leaving that Texas city that begins with D that I won't say. That's leaving, is going to be leaving Dallas very, very soon. And the Texas Rangers will probably be the only championship Dallas gets in a while. So, like, you know, it's you know, the Mavericks they beat San Antonio. They'll be a good team. You know, this leads me to a great segment as far as since we're on the Western Conference. The best team in the Western Conference is clearly the Denver Nuggets, right? Denver Nuggets, they just you know, spanked the Lakers. Like, I was watching that game in my hotel room when I was in Connecticut. Like, they spanked the Lakers, man. Like, all that, like, unlike the Niners, who like have been doing, and I don't mean to send shots to San Fran, but you know, I kind of got to, because we were talking about this over the summer. As much as the players have been talking, that, you know, you would have thought that they were going to start 6-0 and they're 4-2. Like, you know, it's one of those things where like you have to back it up, and the Nuggets did that. Like, Mike Malone was talking about, you know, how the Lakers are all talk, and he showed, and his team showed it on Thursday, man. Like, that's you know, just like with the Chiefs in football, right? Like, until somebody proves otherwise in the Western Conference, it's the Nuggets world, and they have to do the hardest thing. Like, the easy part, put easy part in quotes, was winning the championship. Now you got to defend it. You know, some people and some athletes would say, you know, as a former not high performing athlete, I just did you know, I got to high school, but I didn't go to college or like professional or anything. As a former track and basketball player, like, the hardest part is defending your championship once you get one, or your team championship, because like, you did the hard part, right? You prepared, you trained, you had the no one believes in you stuff, but you got to find different ways to be motivated once you've got the championship, once you had the parade, once the WWE sends you the championship belt with your team logo on it. Like, you know, now you've got to defend it. Now you've got to prove the hype. And so far, so good for the Nuggets, right? You know, I thought their biggest weakness would be the bench, and they scored so many points against the Lakers, it didn't even come up. So like if they can do that, then all more power to them, right? Like it's like to me, um, it's the Nuggets conference, but I've got a surprise team for you, Morgan.
I was gonna
I
ask. So
prepared for this.
who's your surprise one that people should look out for if they're not looking for the Nuggets?
The Timberwolves, man. I know it's
Okay.
frosty in Minnesota right now. The Minnesota Timberwolves. They finally got rid of that log jam in the middle, which they had Anthony Towns. I was about to say Carl Anthony Thomas, wrong name. Carl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, and they finally jetted Gobert off to Sacramento, I believe. And now it's Carl Anthony Towns is middle now. You've got Anthony Edwards. You know, he got a new. I don't know if you saw his new shoe commercial. But dude was lighting it up. Like a lot of people who don't pay attention to Minnesota basketball, y'all saw what he did over the summer for Team USA. That man is a highlight reel. Like I used to have a show called Posterized. Like when I back in about a few years ago, that man is the definition of that. Like posterization, dunking the ball, highlight reel plays, should be in the dunk contest this year. Anthony Edwards, bro. Like that man is going to get the Timberwolves back to the playoffs and eventually at least to the second round. Now they haven't made it. Last 2 years they've obviously made the playoffs. The basketball heads will be like, well, of course, Colin, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. But they have the potential to be the Sacramento Kings this year to me. Like, you know, they could go to the second round. They could go to the ECF. It all depends on, or I'm sorry, the Western Conference Final. It all depends on how it works. And now that Rudy Gobert is in the middle clogging it up anymore, I think the Timberwolves are that team to look out for over there. And over to the Eastern Conference, right?
Okay.
You know, a lot of people are going to say the Celtics, but you know, I'm just not convinced. They barely.
Okay, tell me why.
Because like, you know, it's got to gel, right? Like I think the Brooklyn Nets are a great example of this, right? Just because you put a bunch of talent together, it doesn't automatically mean the championship. You have to gel. Now, I am not saying that Drew Holiday
together sometimes don't work.
Right. I'm not saying that Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, the Killer Jays, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum are KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. I'm not saying that, but I just think it takes a while for you to come together, right? Like there'll be nights where
if they're able to stick together for a year or so, they're able to actually. I think the big thing with a lot of these big superstar teams, you see that they don't know, like they play like 10 or 15 games and they're all actually on the court together. So you're saying that if these big three can actually play a ton of games on the court together, then maybe farther on in the season, we'll see some like real solid gel happening. But if it ends up being superstar world where I'm not feeling it tonight, I'm sitting out, that, then they have no hope.
Yeah. And also it's just like I don't think, like I like Drew. He started his career in Philadelphia. So I like Drew, but he's not Marcus Smart. He's not your defensive anchor. Like he's not it, right? Like I know Celtics fans are gonna be like, oh, you're just a hating behind Sixers fan and this. And you know, I'd love to say that, but I'm being objective here. Like the Celtics have had all this hype for the past 3 years. And outside of giving the Warriors a scare before the inexperience caught up with them, like they haven't done anything. Like, you know, and they can keep building in Boston and they're going to keep building. But ultimately, you will end up just like the Red Sox. Like the Red Sox were building forever and they've been building over these last decades. And eventually Rafael Devers and Mookie Betts, they had all that young talent that was there for them. They wanted to go to the World Series, but they couldn't do it. They always got to the playoffs and then would lose, right? You didn't think you'd get baseball talk today, but I'm giving it to you. like you know,
the second time we had the Phillies and
right. And then you know, Mookie's in LA now, Rafael's still there. But then like the organization eventually runs out of money. Like you can't pay those 4 players, bro. Like they've already, Jaylen Brown just got a contract extension. Jason Tatum's got to get a contract extension in a minute. Like in a while, the money's going to be over. And with the new CBA, that's made it so Boston, the Sixers, and all these other teams with a lot of cap room can't do much. Like, that it's going to come a time like the Celtics are not, to me, like they're the best team by default just because the Sixers are going to be like second and third depending on what happens with James Harden. But like it's the Celtics, like, just because, like, and it kind of confirmed everything I've been saying yesterday with what went
Sorry, I'm
on.
at a screen. I got to plug my laptop in.
No, it's all
Sorry,
right.
my laptop's about to die. I thought it was plugged in.
With what went on yesterday against the Knicks, right? Like, they were doing well.
Yeah.
Then the Knicks started coming back. They started hitting shots. Jalen Brunson finally decided that, oh, Drew Holiday can't guard me. He's old. Like, once that happens, it's just like, if I'm a Celtics fan, if I was a Celtics fan, I would just think that, like, they kind of gave up Drew Holiday a little too easy for me. Like, I'm not saying I'm a conspiracy theorist and that the Bucks gave up Drew Holiday.
No, but I think a lot of people felt like that. I think a lot of people felt that way.
And I like Drew. He's a great player, but he's not your third. Like, they want him to be the defensive anchor and the third in case Kristaps goes down, and that's not him. Like, that's not him. He's a fourth option. That's not him. Drew Holiday could be that guy that could get you 30, 40 points in a heartbeat if you need it. But he's not him. That's not him. He's not the top three option. He's a fourth, and he's your defensive anchor. But he's not Marcus Smart. He's not going to be able to, like, pull Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown aside, even though he does have a ring and they don't. He won't be able to, like, pull them aside and, like, yell at them and be animated like Marcus Smart would. Like, that's not Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday isn't that type of, like, angry, yell in your face type of guy. No, that's not him.
Soft-spoken. Yeah.
He's soft-spoken. He's a great guy. But it's all, like, the teams to watch in the East are the top three. It's the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Sixers. Those are the three in the East. No disrespect to Miami, but, it's they lost out on Dame, so the Heat fans are upset. They don't like us bringing that up, but you did.
Well, you can't please everybody. So we have gone an hour, 27 minutes. So we're going to try and get through these last few segments real fast, like 1 minute each. We're going to do like a quick hit on the college, right? Just real fast. We'll go to college football. Or want to got to basketball already, talking about basketball? Let's just talk right basketball. So as you can see on the screen, shout out to my fiance, Dan, who is hiding in his office upstairs. He's the biggest UConn basketball fan you've ever seen. And we watch every single game in this house. Like I said, I didn't grow up watching college basketball. I am now the second biggest UConn fan you'll meet. So the college rankings came out about a week and a half ago, and UConn was ranked too low for our opinion. As the reigning national champions, we felt that we got no respect given to us. Yeah, we lost two people. Of course we did. And they were great. We lost Hawkins, we lost Sanogo, and they were awesome players. We lost Jackson, and they're amazing players that are all now in the NBA. However, we have people that are stepping right into their spot. Sanogo, we got Klingon, who is a 7-foot-tall true sophomore, played a whole bunch last year, was super, super, super effective in the paint. We have him coming in now as a solid second-year player. We have Stephon Castle coming in. We have our point guard returning. I think this is too low. I think we should be ranked number 1. I know you don't agree with me because you are from Philly, and I'm assuming you're a Syracuse fan and all of these things, so you don't like UConn. But that's my 2 cents on the rankings right now. What are yours? It's funny because
I actually grew up obviously a Nova and Philly college basketball fan, but I like UConn. I love the Rip Hamilton.
Okay.
But I have no problem with UConn. I think they're ranked too low. I think that they should be top 3. I think they just deserve the respect of being the defending champ.
That's what I'm saying. It's like last year they didn't even rank us, and this year they're going to put us at number 6, I think it is, or number 6. I'm like, you're crazy. Yeah. You're crazy. But
you should at least be second or third. But the team that I think is too low is shout out to my hometown CBB team, Villanova. Why are they in the bottom? I was
gonna say I'm assuming you're a Villanova fan too.
How is these teams ranked higher than them? like like
I don't know.
obviously Nova had a down year. Actually, you could have a down year after winning the title 3 years ago. And they dominate the Big East. I know that Villanova is probably a hated word in your house just because of their domination of the
Yes.
Big East for the
Yeah,
last
we're not
couple of years.
honestly, he hates Duke more than he hates Villanova. So Villanova's not as bad, but they're still not on a not a happy team in this
Yeah.
household.
So like Villanova, you got the second year of the new coach. You have shout out to your area. They're getting a couple players back that were injured. And I just think Villanova is going to have something to say in the Big East, and they'll it's basketball, so they'll definitely be in the tournament. My Syracuse. This isn't about Syracuse because they're not ranked at all, but I think Syracuse will also have a good year. But
Let me see. Did they get any votes?
Villanova is that team in the
Syracuse didn't
ranking.
even get any votes.
Nah,
Not
that's
one
what I'm
vote.
saying.
Not
The,
one vote.
the disrespect because Jim Boeheim retired. But yeah, so like it's Nova is the one that's ranked too low, and UConn is also ranked too low. They should be top 3.
Yeah.
So moving right
Yeah,
along to our other stuff. Yeah, let's hit Penn State, Ohio State.
Yep. So Penn State, Ohio State. Just I think the biggest thing talking about this game is, I mean, how do you think Penn State recovers from this? Like, obviously, I don't think a lot of people expected them to beat Ohio State. I think it was, but I feel like they didn't even play well against them, if that makes sense. Like, I felt like people thought it was going to be a closer game than it was. A lot of people still expected the Buckeyes to come out on top, but I mean, what do you think's going on there? What do you think the result for this is going to be for that?
Well, I think now it was already important for them to win out. But like it's important, especially for James Franklin, who has a 1-8 win-loss record against OSU, and Penn State as a whole since he came there is 0-4 win-loss record when they play in Columbus. Now, it is a rivalry game, obviously Pennsylvania, Ohio. As we just talked about in the NFL on Sundays, rivalry games are always muddy. They're always messy. Especially between these two teams. So, it's kind of like Jim Harbaugh, right? Like Jim Harbaugh had to get the OSU monkey off his back. James Franklin has to get the OSU monkey off of his back. Now, maybe, Drew Allers didn't really have a good game. Shout out to him. He is only a sophomore. It's his first full year starting. It didn't really go well. He suffers like most Pennsylvania, like the other two Pennsylvania quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett and Jalen Hurts from the doing too much syndrome as well. Like they want to do more. They want to be big play people, and sometimes it doesn't work out. And in this case, it didn't work out in this game. They had some chances, but they couldn't cash in. They didn't use the tight. Now Penn State is tight end. They have a lot of good tight ends. Like they should have used that more. James Franklin, how they recover is they just have to win. Go to another Big Four New Year's bowl game, and just blow out whoever the team is, and that's all. Credit to James Franklin. Every time he loses, they still make a big bowl game. They still get all the credit, and that's literally probably is the only thing keeping that man in Happy Valley right now.
I mean, it's true, and you see the last, especially. Sometimes I feel like we forget that college football is college kids and there's a lot involved. But you think about the not even the players, but the students that are there for all 4 years. And they have, I mean, the kids who have been there for the last 4 have had, I feel like every year they start out super strong and everyone's like, this is our year, we're going to, and then they just like fall off. So I'm hoping that this doesn't start their fall off. We have a lot of good friends that went to Penn State. I mean, it's such a popular school, especially from down where I'm from. I'm hoping that they can take this, take what they learned, go back to the drawing board, watch some film, and then they can continue to play out. I think this probably was a game that they marked as an L on their schedule when they got it originally. I mean, I would have to assume. I can't, of course, be 100%. But
knowing the numbers that we know, it was more of an L than we thought it would be. I thought they might win that game.
Yeah, but that's what I think is the biggest thing is that they didn't even look like they could compete. I think that's the biggest difference that people saw there that was the questioning of, you know, will they, won't they, how are they going to compete? And like you said, they don't do well against the Buckeyes. They don't do well in Columbus. So it's getting over that hump, and they gotta somehow figure out how to do that. And it's obviously not an easy thing to do, as the Buckeyes are such a strong team.
Right.
But kind of going off of that, who is your team to win the national title this year?
Oh,
actually,
man,
you know what? I feel like that's a silly one. Who's your team to be in the college playoffs? Who are your four that you think? Do you have an idea?
That's a good question. I wasn't planned. This is when the show is not scripted.
I know. I just saw it on there, and I was like, because we talked about this before, that Georgia is so good, and like we both were like, I don't see anybody beating Georgia. So putting that aside, because it seemingly is like a lock.
Right. So it's Georgia. I never thought I'd say this coming out, especially with this team being in the ACC with my Syracuse Orange. But Florida State, just because it's Florida State, man, they're back this year, and I never thought I'd say that this year.
I know.
Florida State.
I know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think you know, even though they did just lose, I'm gonna say, or they did just pull off the great upset on our air. Washington, man. I feel like a lot of people are overlooking Washington.
I know. I have them in mind too.
Overlooking Washington, and I have to say OSU just because, like, you know, that's why I was about to say, like, no, not OSU, Michigan, because, like, I just feel like the only two losses I had on, and Michigan doesn't even play Penn State this year, so that's out the window. But, like, whoever wins that Big Ten title game, more than likely between OSU, unless OSU starts losing games and Penn State can overtake them, like, whoever wins that between Michigan and probably OSU, it's probably, like, I think, you know, DraftKings and the betting market has OSU as like the favorite right now, I believe, or I'm not OSU, but Michigan. Yeah. So I think that, you know, I think it would be really exciting, especially for the network that we work for that paid a lot of money for Big Ten, along with the other two, Fox and CBS. If Michigan makes it there, only to get destroyed by Georgia. So I feel like Georgia's going to win. Yeah. This is more of an offensive Georgia team, but to me, my top playoff teams, more than any changes, Georgia, Florida State, Michigan, and Washington, just because I feel like a lot of people, Michael Penix has been doing very, very well. You know, I had Desmond on College Game Day saying big Penix energy, and I'm just like, that's not how you say that, but okay. Did you see that video? College Game Day. Did you see it?
I did. It's just so it's College Game Day has become something craziness. I agree with you. If they all stay undefeated. I'll say that. If they all stay undefeated, that's my top four. I'm going to say I'm actually going to keep Ohio State in there and take Washington and bump FSU out if they all stay undefeated. Caveat. Now, if some teams start to lose, I think there's a chance, because of who they are and because they haven't been in the college playoffs in a couple years, like they weren't in last year, I can see Alabama sneaking back in. That's my only thought. Alabama or Texas, one of them, because they're both only at one loss right now. And I think that if some of these top teams start to lose, or they lose, you know, even if they lose one game, I think it's going to get super muddy and say Texas and Alabama win out just because it's SEC. And right now we only would have one SEC team in there, which is like, oh my gosh. So we know that the college football playoff loves the SEC. So that would be my only caveat, is that we'll obviously keep updating this as the season goes forward. But my prediction right now is
so in your scenario,
I would say that
Alabama beats Georgia in a few weeks then, right? In your scenario.
Yeah. So if Alabama beats Georgia, that's Georgia's one loss. I don't know how you wouldn't put your Alabama in and keep Georgia in as well. And then I think, especially if Florida or Washington, even if they lose one game, I think they're done. Just kind of like what was it last year? That they
don't like the Pac-12, so I can definitely see Washington lose.
They don't. And if you can't put if the Pac-12 goes undefeated, they're going to put them in. But if they lose one, it's an easy nope, you're not in.
Yeah.
Well, I think that does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Craziness. We just talked for an hour and 40 minutes. But that was super fun. We promise we'll get it down. So we'll keep this try and keep it to an hour 15, hour 30 as we get going. But we were just so excited for our first one. We had so many topics, so many things to say. We also were covering about 2 weeks worth of stuff. Hopefully by next week, we'll kind of be caught up and keeping on just 1 week of games. And if there's anything else you guys want us to cover that you enjoyed listening to, let us know. But this was awesome. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, great show.
Yeah.
As always when we get
Great.
together. So it's great time.
It's
and we
always
hope y'all
fun.
enjoy
Always
it.
electric.
Yes. And have a great
some hot takes and have a great Thursday. Enjoy this week of college football. Enjoy the rest of opening weekend of basketball and enjoy those week 8 games. I know they aren't the most exciting ones, but hopefully there's some shockers. Hopefully we have some upsets that make the weekend fun.
Right. And then
right,
nothing
guys,
else.
It was nice talking to you.
Right.
Yeah,
See y'all.
sorry, and nothing else.
Nothing else.
No, you got something else? Nothing
Yeah,
else. All right.
If nothing else, you have basketball. College hoops is starting soon too, so you'll have basketball.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's at least in our household. You know, the Giants are doing terribly. We're like, we got UConn. We're good. We're good. And a quick thing before we go, I'll say this: we've been watching a lot of hockey in this household. My fiance's last name is Bedard and is actually a 5th cousin to Connor Bedard. So we've been enjoying the Blackhawks. Yeah, so we've been enjoying the Blackhawks here, watching what we call him Cousin Connor. So we've been watching Cousin Connor play, and that's been super fun here. So maybe we'll have to do a quick hit on some of the fun NHL stuff that comes every once in a while. But there's just so many sports that we want to talk about.
You can teach me.
Yeah,
you can teach me that.
I can, exactly. You teach me basketball, I'll teach you hockey. So, all right, guys, that wraps it up for today. It was awesome talking to you, and episode 1 in the books.
Yeah.